We are told that if only we could drop the Jewish state off the back of the sled, they'd leave us alone. Nobody blows themselves up in a Jewish old people's home on Passover in Netanya on the Mediterranean coast of Israel proper, not in a settlement, not against the wall, not in an occupied territory. Nobody does that in order to bring about a compromise. It's just an instinct I have. I have the feeling that they won't be happy until there are no more Jews in what used to be Mandate Palestine. That's certainly what they say they want. I'm in favor of taking the enemy seriously to that extent.
How you doing? This is Sahar TV, and in today's video we will see the incredible Christopher Hitchens exposing the apologists for Islamists, saying Muslims hate the West because of Western intervention in their countries. Let's watch.
We know what the first remark made by the director of our Central Intelligence was in the immediate post 9/11 epoch, the first few seconds of it actually, because we know what he said when the men ran in to tell him, Mr. Director, you better leave this meeting with Senator Boren. And it wasn't because he was late for his next one, and he had to watch on the television what had happened. And his first remark made by our intelligence establishment in this era we're now in, was the following. Gee, said Mr. Senate, I hope it's nothing to do with those guys in the flight schools in the Midwest. Okay. Does this man deserve a Medal of Freedom, do you think, on his retirement? Should he not rather have been impeached? Should he not have at least been dismissed? Should he not, in fact, probably have been prosecuted for criminal negligence? No, because it must not be admitted. And therefore it's left for us to face the fact that this is an army fight that's going to need volunteers. We cannot, in fact, delegate this to our leaders or complain when they get it wrong. It's going to call upon us. And the moment I want to reach is when in the Arab press you start to read worried articles saying, do you realize that our extremist policies of terrorism and so on are creating huge forces of resistance in the West? We've really driven them now to a point where they're ready to fight. People all over the United States are signing up, saying, what can I do? How can I push back against jihad? Now look what we've done with our intervention in their internal affairs. That's when I'll know that we've turned this round. And do you feel, any of you, any sign of any of this mentality or self-respect or dignity in our society? I don't. But that's what I think we have to learn how to fight for. And we know who the enemy is. I'm not going to waste much time on that. The vile combination in Islam of self-righteousness and self-hatred and self-pity. It's Trinity that we see every day. It's wrong for the president, it was wrong then for him to call it an attack on America, to say that we were either with us, the Americans, or with the terrorists. There were 80 nations represented in those towers that day, several hundred of my fellow countrymen among them. I refused to go to a ceremony, especially for people of English descent, because I didn't want to go to anyone's national or ethnic celebration. It was an attack on civilization itself, as should be very plain. And we should be very careful, I'm sorry, sir, to correct you slightly, of saying we have not been attacked since, because if we take that stand of civilization, we have been attacked almost every single day since then. Either in the form of our servicemen and women in Afghanistan and Iraq, whose performance I think is beyond praise, or the attack on the resort of Bali in Indonesia, attack on holidaymakers there, the regular attacks on Jewish institutions and places of worship, ancient synagogues in Tunisia, in Turkey, in Morocco, all of these countries with governments that opposed the interventions in Afghanistan and in Iraq, by the way.
The countless terrorist attacks that took place all over Europe, such as in the UK, in France, we have not been attacked since. It's been happening constantly because we're still the kuffars, we're still the disbelievers, we're still the enemy of Islam, and it's perfectly fine to impose jihad on the enemies of Islam and fight for Islam.
The attempt to blow up the London Underground, facility used by many Americans every day, if you care to put it like that. And in my opinion, most of all, and touched on, I was glad to see by Bill, the attempt in the fall of 2001, very underreported in our press, to blow up with a huge series of truck bombs the Parliament of India, the Lok Sabha in New Delhi, that represents, if you ever go and look at it in all its splendor, the true parliamentary consummation of a genuine multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious democracy, based like ours on the rule of law, the English language, regular elections and the free market. Our our, in my opinion, I submit, future closest ally and a country with which we have a great duty of solidarity. Every now and then, if you're like me and you go on the air and you debate with some whining, self-righteous, self-hating, self-pitying Muslim, and you tell him what you think of his Quran and his Prophet, and so he says, you have offended 1 billion Muslims. You notice this? You notice that? There's a slight tone of moral blackmail here, I sometimes think. Look, if it was a matter of defending the right of somebody to hold their religious opinion, I would defend the right of a Muslim if there were only 3 of them. The idea of 1 billion is clearly intended as a threat. There's a menace to that. You've upset 1 billion of us. You should watch out. That's what it means. And we're going to try and move in to your city and your country too, and we're going to raise more and more demands. That's what's meant by it. But what about 1 billion Hindus? What about 1 billion Hindus who've been declared anathema, who have been declared fit for slaughter at any time, at any place? They're not even monotheist. Look what happened, for example, to the Nepalese guest.
Of course, because in Islam it says, kill the polytheists wherever you find them. Hindus answer that criteria. That's why they hate them so much. Same as Buddhists. They simply dislike everyone that is not practicing Islam the way they do.
Workers in Iraq. Did anybody see that unbearable video of the mass slaughter and throat cutting of these Hindus? You have to see it to believe it, and the commentary that goes with it too. And India is not just Hindu. There are more Muslims living in India, in a democracy, in a serious multicultural society, than live in Pakistan. We shouldn't despair. We have allies who've proved themselves ready to fight. Now, I mustn't trespass on the time I've decided to borrow from the extreme terseness of my 2 comrades here, but I just wanted to say that those of us who thought it would change everything were obviously wrong. For most of our countrymen, it has not done anything of the kind. They want reassurance. They even take part in opinion polls saying, I want a politician who makes me feel safer. Can anything be more contemptible than this exercise? And we suffer like the sugar in the kidneys of a diabetic, as Rebecca West called the moral atmosphere of the Chamberlain government, from 2 very widespread illusions. First, that we ourselves are the cause of terrorism. Senator Harry Reid, I give you, I don't pick at random some extremist like Michael Moore or Ramsey Clark, the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, says that yes, it's true that Al-Qaeda is in Iraq. The only time on which, now it's obviously there and has gone to all the trouble of calling itself Al-Qaeda in Mesopotamia. It's no longer denied that it's there, you notice. But it's only there because we are there, says the Senate. He said it in a reply to a presidential broadcast. It was not an ill-considered or off-the-cuff remark, a prepared statement. Yes, Al-Qaeda's forces are in Iraq, but they are only there because of us. Defeat in the mind, surrender, capitulation, as well as a completely false statement of the case. As we well know, Mr. Zarqawi and many of his associates were in Iraq long before the first coalition soldiers set foot there. Or an alternative argument made recently by Maureen Dowd in the New York Times, that the problem is that we are in occupation of what she called Muslim land, denominating territory by religion, clearing the ground on the New York Times op-ed page for the caliphate to come. Well, this is a pretty dire state of moral surrender as well. And or we're told that if only we could drop the Jewish state off the back of the sled, they'd leave us alone. Mm-hmm. Sometimes this is phrased as that Israel-Palestine is the crucial question of the solution, etc., etc. Well, everyone should know and probably does in this room, but I'll say it briefly. Al-Qaeda is an outfit that begins in Asia, not in the Middle East. It starts with trying to develop, by tearing out the territory of the Philippines, an independent Muslim state in the Philippine archipelago. It goes on to demand the return of East Timor, which was nearly destroyed as a people by Indonesian occupation, to Muslim Indonesia. It blew up Sergio Vieira de Mello, the great Brazilian UN envoy in Baghdad. It murdered him on his first week on duty in revenge, as stated by Al-Qaeda, for his role in overseeing the independence of East Timor and the election that brought it to self-government. It wants to wrench Kashmir away from the Indian Union with the help of Pakistani subversion. If that was allowed to happen, the resulting bloodbath in the subcontinent would absolutely dwarf what we remember of the bloodletting of the partition of 1947-48, and would wreck and destroy the other great multicultural democracy and ally of ours in the world. It's quite a lot of concessions, in other words, that we're going to be asked to make in order to appease these people and to make sure they don't harbor any more evil thoughts against us. And in my opinion, half of Palestine won't quite satisfy them. And in my other opinion, which I'll share with you, nobody blows themselves up in a Jewish old people's home on Passover in Netanya on the Mediterranean coast of Israel proper, not in a settlement, not against the wall, not in an occupied territory. Nobody does that in order to bring about a compromise. It's just an instinct I have. I have the feeling that they won't be happy until there are no more Jews in what used to be Mandate Palestine. That's certainly what they say they want. I'm in favor of taking the enemy seriously to that extent.
100%.
And
that's what people fail to do with the Islamic Republic of Iran, who has vowed to destroy America, destroy Israel, and destroy Europe. They already started doing this with Israel. What makes you think they're not going to proceed and continue with the United States and Europe? Listen to your enemies.
on this question of let's not provoke, and we're the cause of their reaction, let us just examine this for one more second. All it takes in order to get the diplomatic immunity of a small northern European democracy violated, its diplomats shot at, its embassies burned by crowds in the capital cities of countries that do not normally allow demonstrations, its trade ruined, its economy sabotaged, its nationals and the nationals of other Scandinavian countries threatened and killed randomly around the world. All that it takes is the refusal of the elected Prime Minister of Denmark to agree, weighted upon as he was by a delegation of 20 Arab ambassadors, to break his own country's law and tell an afternoon newspaper in Copenhagen that it couldn't publish certain cartoons. That's all it takes to bring about jihadism now. That's the threshold of provocation. Now, you have to be, I think, a real masochist to say, well, then we must avoid doing this kind of thing. Because all they're asking is that we change everything that makes our way of life different from theirs. And then, it's true, I suppose, there would be very little to fight about. But in the meanwhile, I think that we have to face the fact that it's a clash of civilization, of course, and about civilization, and within a civilization. It does represent also, I think it's nice to be able to note, a war within Islam too, where we don't know how lucky we are that fighting on our side are forces of the Northern Alliance in Afghanistan and of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan in Iraq, whose emblem I'm proud to wear in my lapel. People who are fighting against Saddam for us and taking heavy casualties when we thought his regime was a matter of indifference. And these people are just as Muslim and have just as good a right to claim that they observe that faith as do anyone else. We should never forget our duty of solidarity to them, and they are our brothers and sisters in arms. And with the other victims of bin Ladenism and this horrifying cult of death and murder and suicide that says that it loves itself and its cult more than we love life. Much depends then, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades, friends, much depends on the multiple ways in which we can disprove that assertion and assert the power of life and pluralism over the morbid, sordid, and medieval enemy that we're now faced with. Thank you.
If you think this is a matter of Israel-Palestine to solve the Islamic aggression towards the world, oh, you are wrong, because even before Israel was a modern state that was created in 1948, they still attacked Jews. They still attacked Christians. Why did they attack the Jews in Morocco in 1033? 915 years before the establishment of Israel. Or the countless other massacres that took place all around the world against the Jews. Or you want to stay in the region, why did they attack the Jews in Hebron in 1517? Why did they do that? Israel wasn't a state, because this was never about Israel. This was never about land. This is about religious domination. The Jews and the Christians to the Muslims are din batels, are cancelled and irrelevant religions. How could Islam, which is considered to be din haq, the religion of law, the official religion, how can it prevail when it's got Christianity and Judaism right on its side? It can't. They must destroy us or assimilate us within Islam for them to prevail. Now, you might be looking at this video of Christopher Hitchens and saying, wow, he's putting it in a really, really nice way. But guys, he's just like Tommy Robinson. But because Tommy Robinson is a football hooligan, people take Tommy Robinson as a far-right activist, but they say exactly the same things. Watch them both. Christopher, and Tommy. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. If you'd like to watch more of my stuff, please check out my channel down below. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification button so you can be notified every time I upload new content. If you'd like to support me and the channel financially, you can do that using Buy Me Coffee or Patreon down in the links below. Also, we now have a Discord that you can join down in the link below. And now you can become a YouTube member and enjoy specific YouTube perks. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.